Okay, payday loan. Charged Matt $40 interest on a $350 loan. Matt paid back the total amount of $390 after 10 days. What was the daily interest rate for this loan? Okay, so what we should figure out is we should figure out the given information. So I'm just going to get rid of this. What's the interest that Matt paid? Anyone see that number? They charged him $40 interest. So I know that that's a 40. $40. Anyone know how much he borrowed in this case? He's not investing, he's borrowing money. What was the amount of the loan? $350. Awesome. And what does that represent? P, R, or T? It can't be I. I've already used I. That's the amount he borrowed. $350. Wicked. That's the principal. That's what P stands for. Matt paid back the total amount of $390 after 10 days. What does this represent? T. But what should I do with the T? If it's in days, not years. 10 over 365. Now you can reduce that if you want it. They're both divisible by 5. Not necessary. And what do they want me to figure out? They want me to figure out the interest rate. So in order to do that, here's what I would do. I would fill the 40 in for I. I would write my equal sign. I would fill the 350 in for P. So check this out. I was 40. Equal sign. P is 350. R is what I'm looking for. T is 10 over 365. Now the next line, let's understand how they got this. How did they get this big greasy decimal of 9.589041095? Anyone know what they did? What would you do with the 350 and the 10 and the divide 365? You could do this part first. You could go 10 divided by 365 and then multiply that by 350. Perfect. Or you could go 350 times 10 and then divide by 365. Does it matter? If I go 350 times 10 and then divide it by 365, there's the 9.589041096. If I said 10 divided by 365 and then multiplied by 350, I get the same number. So is everyone clear on how we got that number? What would you do from there? I would divide both sides of the equation by this number right here. And if I do that, do you agree that I get 4.17? If I go 40 divided by that answer, 9.589041095, I get 4.17142857. Now that's the R value. What's the problem? Okay, it's a decimal. How do I change a decimal to a percentage? Times it by 100. Wicked. If you multiply something by 100, really you just swing the decimal place 2 spots to the right. If you divide it by 100, you'd swing it 2 spots to the left. What's 4.17 times 100? Anyone? It's 417%, a ridiculous interest rate. Okay? It has to be a ridiculously high interest rate because the term on these loans is generally so small. Like, how long did he borrow it for? 10 days. And look, in 10 days, they actually got an extra $40 out of him. So can you understand the danger of a payday loan? Like what happens if you took it out for a year? The interest wouldn't be $40. It would be a ridiculous amount. You can, yeah. Now, that's the annual interest rate. How would you figure out what it is daily? Divide it by 365, and that gives me 1.14% daily. Now, 1.14% daily doesn't seem like a lot. But if you did this, if you went for 350, let's just change, watch this calculation. Let's see if they borrow it for a year. So if I tried to figure out the interest on 1 year, it's the P times R times T. Let's go with I equals, the principal is still going to be that 350. Let's use the interest rate of 4.17, 417% or 4.17% per year. And let's say they borrow it for 1 year. So I don't have to divide by 365. Watch what I get. How much am I going to owe them after 1 year? What's 350 times 4.17? I got $1,459.50. That's how much interest they charge me. That's wild, okay? So be careful of these. If you take out a payday loan, make sure you pay it back within a few days. All right. Here's the example we were talking about in the book, or sorry, before the video. John Paul borrows, so you don't have to copy this one down. It's given to you. I just want you to understand why I divided by 1,000, where that number comes from, why I use 24 months, and how I figure out the finance charge. And then we'll do a couple of examples together. But John Paul borrows $2,500 to purchase a laptop computer and software. He takes out a personal loan from his credit union at an annual rate of 6.25% and the amortization period of 2 years. Use the personal loan payment calculator table, page 132 of the text. I printed it out for you to answer these questions. So, in order to figure out his monthly payment, you are going to take the amount he borrows. How much does John Paul borrow? What's the principal? $2,500. That's where that number comes from. Why do I divide by 1,000? Because that's what the personal loan payment calculator table tells us. It's per $1,000 borrowed. Per, as we discussed, means divide. So I'm dividing by 1,000. So you'll always do that. That gives me 2.5. Now to figure out his monthly payment, I have to use the amortization rate, the interest rate of 6.25%. So I'm going to scroll down until I find 6.25%. I look in this column that says interest rate, and I'm going to find the term in years. How many years? Where do those columns meet? 6.25, 2 years. They meet at 44.43. That's where I found that. So I take the 44.43 and I multiply it by the 2.5. That's the answer I got in this step. And that gives me $111.08 per month. So that's his monthly payment. You okay with me writing per month here? If he borrows it for 2 years, if they want to know the total amount he'll pay back in 2 years, you have to change 2 years or whatever number of years to month. How would you do that? How many months are in 1 year? 12. So how many months would be in 2 years? 24. You would go 2 times 12 equals 24 months. So however many years you borrow it for, change it to months because we've got a monthly payment. And I go $111.08 per month. Per month. That's going to cancel this. And it would end up being $2,665.92. That's how much I pay back. How much did I borrow? $2,500. How much did I pay back? $2,665.92. Step 3, what's the finance charge? The finance charge is the cost of borrowing. It's the interest. And I would just take the $2,665.92 and subtract the principal. I pay $165.92 in interest. Let's do one together, and then you can practice one. Okay, so this one was already worked out for you, but let's use this as our template to do the next question. Okay, so when I flip over, you can go after this, okay? We're talking about Jennifer. Jennifer borrows $6,520 at her credit union at an annual rate of 5.25% with an amortization period of 4 years. So we don't know what she's borrowing the money for. Okay? Doesn't really matter. Step 1, when I want to figure out Jennifer's monthly payment, I have to take the amount she borrows. What's that number? If you read the question, what does Jennifer borrow? It says it in the first sentence. $6,520. That goes on top. What do I divide that by? 1,000, because the loan payment calculator is based on the per $1,000 borrowed. So if I divide that by 1,000, really just means swing the decimal place 1, 2, 3 spots to the left. If you do it in your calculator, do you get 6.52? Everyone cool with that? Now, step 2, to figure out her monthly payment. I take the 6.52 and I multiplied it by some number. Like it's a number that comes from the chart. In the last example, it was $44.43. Okay, how did I get the $44.43? Because John Paul borrowed it at 6.25% for 2 years. So let's see what those numbers are for Jennifer. What's the interest rate? 5.25. So I'm going to come down to this row. And how long did Jennifer borrow it for? 4 years. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 years. And where do those numbers meet? I go across the row and down the column. Do you agree they meet at this magic number here, 23.14? That's what I'm going to multiply the 6.52 by. And when I do that, what do you get? 6.52 times 23.14. I get 150.8728. I'm going to round it to 0.87, and that's $150.87 per month. That's what Jennifer's going to pay. In this next question, or part 2, calculate the total amount she will pay over the 4 years. 4 years is what? Let me just do this, because it's all out of sorts. 4 years would be 48 months over the 4 years. Do you agree with Lisa? 4 years. If I multiply it by 12, I get 48 months. I need it in months because I know they're monthly payment. It's not an annual payment, it's a monthly payment. So how do I figure out what they're going to pay back or what she's going to pay back? I take $150.87. This means per month. And I'm going to multiply it by 48 months. Now, do you have to show this part? No, but know that those would cancel. And it would leave me with, what's 150.87 times 48? $7,241.76. So how much did she borrow? Hey, how much did she borrow? It says it right in the first line. 6,000 what? 520. Thank you. How much does she pay back? $7,241.76. How do I figure out the finance charge? I subtract them. I take what she pays back, $7,241.76, and I subtract what she borrows. Was it 6,520. And the finance charge is equal to $721.76. Now you might say, why would she do that? Well, she obviously doesn't have the $6,520 right up front. And if you don't have the money, you have to borrow it. And that'll happen to all of us throughout our life. Okay, if I want to do some renovations on my house, I'm not walking around with $10,000 in my pocket to just pay for it with straight cash. If you are, great. Okay? If you want that situation, don't be a teacher. Okay? You won't have that situation. Have lots of free time, have a good job, you won't go hungry, but you won't have a pocket full of cash. Everyone okay with that? Could you try this question on your own? Trevor's borrowing $932. He's borrowing at an interest rate of 6.5%, and he's borrowing it for 3 years. You're just going to do those same 3 steps. I'll pause the video, let you try it. And then you can do these questions from the worksheet. But try this now. Okay, I took the amount Trevor borrowed, $932, divided by $1,000 because it's per $1,000 borrowed. Gave me 0.932. Where'd the 30.65 come from? I used the interest rate of 6.5%, and I used the term of 3 years. Where does 6.5 meet 3? At 30.65. Multiply those two numbers together, and I get $28.57 per month. Everyone was good there. The next move, why did I multiply 28.57 per month by 36 and not 3? Because it's 3 years, changed it to months, 36 months. How do I do that? 3 times 12. And when I multiply the 28.57 by 36, I'm left with $1,028.52. When you subtract the 932, okay, I noticed some people had a different number here. You should get 96.52. Yes? Everyone's good with that? All right. You can try these questions from the worksheet. Thank you.